Hi everyone, my name is Morgan Trau and I'm a news reporter who has been working with NCJW Cleveland on a series about recording her life during a pandemic. Last time we talked about audio and visual recording, but this time we're going to talk about photography. I have two guests here for a panel discussion. We have Bridget Caswell, a storyteller and photographer for the NASA Glenn Research Center. Her work has appeared in the New York Times, London Daily Telegraph, and she's worked with the Associated Press, NPR, and Cleveland Magazine. And next we have Daniel Levin, a photographer and professor at Cuyahoga Community College. He has solo exhibits all over the country and he focuses a lot of his work on social justice. He also does documentary film work and is releasing a book in 2021. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I know you're both super busy and we really appreciate you taking the time out of your days to talk to me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to touch on photography and what has made photography stand out throughout the decades of sort of being the way that storytelling is told through pictures. And what's so special about that? Why do we always go back to old photographs?
To me, I taught, I went to Kent State and I taught a class in the history of photography, photojournalism especially. And I think it's a tangible thing that we didn't start viewing war we didn't view war the same after photography became a part of it. If you look at World War I, there wasn't a lot of photography. World War II, it started. Vietnam, when we started seeing all the photos coming out of it, that people had more of a reaction. They could see it. They couldn't ignore what was happening. And I think that is why photography has such an impact on people. It's there. It's right there. It's a still that it connects with you and it makes you feel something.
So much is materialistic nowadays, and a photograph is a person in a way, or multiple people. Even if it's inanimate and there are no people in it, there's still an emotional connection to it often, especially if the person who views it has some kind of memory attached to that photo. It can come flooding back.
Yeah, and in a time where photography is so important during a pandemic to capture people's lives as we're all so far apart from each other, I want to bring up Bridget's project of doing porch portraits. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
The first one I did, I was with my daughter and I heard my neighbor playing her accordion on her porch. And I ran and got my camera and went back, and I realized after that that I needed to make this a ritual and started going on daily walks in my neighborhood. And for me, I really wanted to find a way to connect my community and bring a little bit of a moment of joy. A lot of photographers have been talking about the pandemic and how it's affecting them, which I think is so important. For me, I asked people 3 different questions about our community and your involvement. I think that you get through things like this in life by, we can't physically be together, but somehow feeling like you're still connected to your community. And that was my intention and also it was really great to, multiple people have said, it made me put on clothes and it made me, my one neighbor said, it's the first time I put on a bow tie in weeks, or, and it made them feel a little bit more normal in a very stressful situation.
And this is not your first time covering a traumatic event.
I was a student at Kent State when 9/11 happened, and it was my senior year, my last semester, and I was working for the Daily Kent Stater, and we had a staff meeting, and every other photographer on staff was begging to the school to send them to New York, which, and I kept arguing that we are a community newspaper. We need to show how this affected our community, which I still hold dear to today. But they had the day after that meeting, they had a national day of prayer, and they honored it at the university, which was rare for public university to honor any kind of religious event like that. But they did, and I was the only student photographer that showed up that day. And from that moment on, I realized how important it was to be a storyteller in your community and to show when things like this happen, how it affects where you live. And, it doesn't have to be at the epicenter.
Yeah, and Daniel, I know that you have a ton of experience working within your community right now as a professor for students, and you had them do pretty interesting works to sort of cover their own lives.
Yes, so it came out of necessity right after spring break. My students who I had met with for half a semester, I could no longer meet with. What were they going to photograph? You know, we were told not to leave our homes. These are students at 3 different levels, from foundation courses to the most advanced at the college. And for the first time ever, I gave the same assignment to all 3, actually variations of the same assignment, all related to COVID and each person's individual life. And for the first time in my 17 years of teaching, I chose to do this as well, because I wanted to do this for myself in a selfish way, just like I thought they would benefit not only for the course, but to look back on it later. Not just for the course as well, for emotional reasons now, to kind of cope with it and celebrate what was going on. This was a time to really look at what was happening in one's own life. But I want to comment, if I could, I know this is long, but Simon Perez, in your earlier interview of him, made a wonderful statement that is true to photojournalism and journalism, but not necessarily to documentary. And that is, he talked about, maybe it was something like, you know, you don't have to talk about going to the coffee percolator each day. You know, that's mundane. Who needs to read about that later? But for these projects, these mundane things can be pretty wonderful and would be appreciated looking back. Not if the whole thing was like that, but little pieces of that, those kind of rituals bring comfort. And it's going to be nice to look back. Plus, they're true.
And what do you think that you've learned by doing this project with them? Because this is, like you said, the first time that you've done it.
I never had the desire to share an assignment with my students. I've learned what I already knew in a sense. I'm just like them. I'm just another person in the room. And my work is just as valid as theirs.
And I love the point that you bring up about routine, because I think that one of the biggest things I've heard from people about this pandemic is that they no longer have that routine. And Bridget, you touched on that with saying that, you know, it was the first time somebody had, you know, gotten dressed up in a long time. What do you think, both of you, sort of ways that we can motivate ourselves to stay creative, to, you know, document, you know, the present, but also have things to look back on?
To challenge yourself, to try to, you know, not feel despair and channel that into something creative. But, you know, whether it's, like I said, you know, picking up your cell phone, or if you have, you know, you're an amateur photographer, and try to do, and, you know, try to tell the story around you, how it's affecting you, and document your daily life, and try to do it in a creative way, do it a little differently.
Probably it's the same probably for Bridget as me, that it's really therapeutic. It's almost art therapy.
So funny. That is what I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that is actually, when people ask me about this project, I've actually said, this has been my therapy.
Yeah.
Sorry, Daniel.
No. Yeah. And, you know, I have a student who's writing, and she's looking forward to shooting the next day. And sometimes she felt a little stuck in class, and this has really given her purpose. And I know part of that is because she knows that it's going to be something to look back at later. And I've encouraged all of my students usually print. So each photograph is a horizontal. They're required for it to be a horizontal. And then it's a vertical piece of paper that's printed. And underneath it is white space. So that's where they get to drop in the text, whether it be by hand or through type. And I've encouraged students to buy a beautiful but inexpensive portfolio box just for this. And that'll be a wonderful way. And they're continuing with it now that the semester's over. And I'm doing the same. So I think this art is giving people purpose, and naturally they're pushing themselves, especially when they're turned on to others. As you see, we're all exposed to all kinds of things throughout the day. The work is going to evolve, even if the parameters stay the same. The kind of creative possibilities evolve.
Right, we inspire each other to create, and I think just in general in the community, I think you're inspired by each other, and that gives you more of a creative outlet when you're, you see other work and you see what people are doing. That can give you the ideas to create something yourself. And people are at home and they see our work or they see somebody else's work that inspires them to pick up whatever tool you have. The best camera that you have is the tool that's in front of you. So, they can use whatever they have to get out there and create something, and that will give them an outlet.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. Of course, this is for you, Morgan, and it's for NCJW and the viewers, or members or people that view it. They should show this, whatever it is that they're doing, to others.
Absolutely.
For this very reason. Not only will it be fulfilling, even if sometimes people have their own opinion they don't like, but the work there's a greater chance the work will evolve, and there's a greater chance that one will be inspired just because of sharing. They'll be inspired to do the next one.
That's how we've been connecting on I've been posting my project daily on Instagram, but my community, they keep reaching out saying, okay, well, what are you going to do with it? How can we get a book? Can we do this or that? And I think for me, the connecting the community has been sharing them daily, and people, I've been inundated with messages of thanking me for helping them feel still connected to their community, or seeing how wonderful it is. I've had multiple people ask me if their house is available because they want to move into our community now. So that has been really rewarding.
Everyone really does have an eye or a voice through their writing, even if they minimize that to a great degree, even if they're insecure about it. And this is a chance to go there.
What do you think are the best ways to document? Because I know you could make photo albums, you could put it on social media. What do you think has helped you the most, or your students the most?
Don't wait until the day after tomorrow to write about today. It's really, you're missing it when you do that.
Communicating it just however that is for you, whether it's picking up a camera or a pen or a paintbrush, whatever it is that you feel you can express yourself, communicating those feelings are really important. I know myself, if I wasn't creating right now, I would feel lost. And I did it in a safe way. I just, on my daily walk, I just walked around my neighborhood. And if someone was outside, I photographed them. But communicating your feelings and expressing that, I think, is really important. And you have to figure out what works for you, whether it is, with the pen, paintbrush, or a camera, whatever tool you choose.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One of the things I'd recommend is, everyone has a smartphone almost nowadays, is turning the phone 90 degrees and not looking at it in what we call portrait mode, but in landscape mode. I think that's how we see. We have two eyes that are next to each other, not on top of each other. And when you look at that, there is room above it and below it for more information, I think. I can't explain why, but that's how it feels. So I would recommend, by doing that and really thinking about composition, and sometimes getting in a little close, and sometimes really backing off with the camera, it would really help your viewers.
Change your perspective.
Yeah, but really consider the composition, the vertical lines. Maybe make them vertical with the edge of the frame.
That's great. Do you have any other tips for new novice photographers who really want to take part of this? Like any lighting or background?
You have to experiment. The one thing I do tell, I actually also teach mostly high school age kids. And I always tell them to just be safe and smart. Beyond what your photograph, that you're getting out there and doing it and being creative, you have to just be smart about what you're doing. And, whether it's the environment you're in, or, approaching people, especially today, you need to be socially distant and being responsible for your safety and others. And then once you've done that, just take a chance and explore, experiment with light, inside, outside, try and get up early and get that golden light, or, go out in the evening. And, when I did schedule a few of my portraits, and when people would ask me, I would say either the morning or the evening around 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. Let's do it. So, you know, 'cause that was the best light. So, you know, experimenting with whatever, challenge yourself to, you know, get down low, and we call it the worm's eye, you know, or get up high in the bird's eye, try to step outside of the box, as they say.
So I would add to that, to turn the flash off. Every picture that's made with a flash on camera looks like a point and shoot picture, even from a pro.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I feel I'm an expert at lighting, but not flash on camera. There's no reason to use that. So a lot of the pictures are going to be inside when it's brighter, or outside. Don't follow rules of thumb like you might have learned as a child. Like the light has to be over your shoulder as the photographer so that it hits someone in their face. Experiment with that. But mostly my answer to you is about the subject matter. So if you're gonna go outside and garden or mow the lawn, photograph yourself doing that. Every smartphone has a self-timer. Easy to find the answer how to use it by going to Google, and use that and document that mundane thing that you either love or you absolutely hate. You know, who knows?
Yeah.
So what your viewers can do is they can think a little bit about what they're interested in related to life today, even if it doesn't touch them directly, and either pick up the phone or just go and just, you belong, and make a picture.
One thing I often do portraits of families, and you know, I often have moms that, you know, cringe and say, oh, I don't want to have my picture taken, or oh, I hate to have my picture taken. And I always say to them, I say, you know, it's really not about you necessarily. It's about, you know, 3 generations from now or 5 generations from now, the people that I have photographs of my great grandparents in Italy. And so it's really important to me to see who came before me. And I think that, you know, whether you're doing a portrait or, you know, documenting yourself mowing the lawn, it's important to document these times for the future.
Absolutely. And don't forget about what's happening right now, like the masks. We don't have to take the mask off for a picture.
Right.
It may be more valid by having it on and having people 6 feet apart. That's part of the narrative, but you can also take the picture the other way.
Well, thank you so much. I will put all of your information and websites below so that everyone can find your work. And I really, really appreciate this, and I know everyone will too.